Have you ever felt like something strange was going on, but you couldn't quite explain it? Like, she's there, but not really? She talks to you one day, smiles, laughs, maybe even touches your arm. Then the next day she's gone. Silent, cold. You think, did I mess up? Did I say something wrong? But here's the twist. She wants you to be confused. Yes, that's the trap. But guess what? You're going to be calm, strong, and calculated. Let's slow down and look at what's really happening here. She's not being clear with you. She's not giving you real answers. She's throwing you little bits of attention, just enough to keep you around, but not enough to give you peace. And deep inside, that hurts, doesn't it? You feel like you're chasing something that keeps slipping through your hands. You give more and more and still feel like it's not enough. You ask yourself, does she like me? Why does she act close then far? Why do I feel so unsure all the time? Here's the truth that most men never figure out. Confusion is control. When you're confused, you chase. When you chase, you forget yourself. And when you forget yourself, you lose your power. But you're not going to fall for that game. You're going to watch, not react. You're going to observe, not beg. You're going to breathe, not panic. You're going to be a stoic man. What does that mean? It means your world doesn't spin just because someone else is unsure. It means you don't need her to be happy, peaceful, powerful. It means her silence isn't your enemy. Her silence becomes your teacher. Because when you stop chasing, when you stop guessing, when you stop trying to prove yourself, you become a mystery. You become strong. You become rare. And women, they don't chase what they understand. They chase what moves them deeply and then disappears. So the next time she's quiet, don't panic. Smile, breathe, step back, and watch what happens. Because the man who doesn't flinch, the man who doesn't fold, that's the man she can't stop thinking about. The calm man becomes the storm in her mind. What if I told you, the calmer you are, the louder you become in her mind? Crazy, right? But it's real. Because while most guys chase, overthink, and fall apart when she pulls away, you go still. You go silent. And that makes her world shake. Let me explain. When she gives you crumbs of affection and then backs away, she's watching how you'll react. She wants to see if you'll beg. She wants to see if you'll crumble. She wants to feel power. But the stoic man, the rare man, the powerful man, he doesn't chase crumbs. He doesn't panic when things feel cold. He doesn't lose sleep when she goes quiet. He becomes still, like a mountain in a storm. And that's when everything changes. She starts to wonder, why isn't he texting me? Did he forget about me? Is he with someone else? Her mind races, her heart thumps. She starts to feel that weird, scary feeling. Longing. Because calmness isn't boring. It's mysterious. It makes her feel something. And then wonder what she just felt. You see, when a man stays grounded, when he's not desperate for a reply, when he walks away from mixed signals like they mean nothing, he becomes the storm inside her silence. He doesn't need her attention. And that's why his energy is unforgettable. Because he's full of something most men lost long ago. Self-respect. You don't chase, not because you're playing hard to get, but because your life is already rich. Your days are full. Your heart is focused. You're not waiting around hoping she loves you one day. You're already in love with your purpose. And that is rare. That is powerful. That is unforgettable. How to leave a scar on her mind without saying a word. Have you ever met someone and they never even said much, but for some reason, you just couldn't stop thinking about them? Like they were burned into your memory, but you don't know why? That's not an accident. That's power. And today, I'll show you how you can become that man. Here's the truth. Women don't remember the guy who was always available. They don't stay up late thinking about the guy who replied in 5 seconds. They don't get haunted by the one who always said yes. They remember the one who didn't play their game, who didn't beg, who stayed silent in the right moment. A man becomes unforgettable. Not when he gives her everything, but when he gives her space to feel his absence. That space? It's not empty. It's full of questions. Did I mess this up? Was he really that calm? Or just done with me? Why do I miss someone who didn't even try to make me miss him? You didn't leave a message, but you left a mark. And that mark grows louder the more you live for yourself. Now listen close. The scar doesn't come from anger. It doesn't come from playing games. It comes from your silence when most men would scream. You walk away, but you don't slam the door. You leave, but with your head held high. She's used to men falling apart when she pulls away. She's used to men sending long texts, asking what happened. But you vanished, with peace in your chest. That's the scar. Not pain, but confusion. Not begging, but power. That's why detachment isn't cold. It's actually hotter than obsession. It's fire wrapped in calmness. It's strength that whispers, I don't need you to feel full. Why mystery makes her heart race, even if she pretends it doesn't. Have you ever watched someone walk into a room and suddenly everyone turned to look, but no one knew why? He didn't say a word. He didn't try to be noticed. Yet all eyes were on him. That's not magic. That's mystery. And mystery? It drives her wild, way more than good looks ever will. See, when she thinks she has you all figured out, her brain stops wondering. And when her brain stops wondering, her heart starts sleeping. But when you're a mystery, you live rent-free in her mind. She starts to guess where you are, wonder what you're doing, question what you're feeling. And guess what? Those tiny unanswered questions, they grow louder and louder until they become emotional thunder. Now here's what most guys get wrong. They over-explain everything. They try to make her feel safe by pouring out their soul on day 2. They say, I just want to be honest and open. But really, they're just scared of losing her. You don't need to be rude. You don't need to hide. But when you reveal less, you become more. Less availability equals more value. Less explanation equals more curiosity. Less chasing equals more mystery. The Stoic man doesn't reveal every emotion like a broken faucet. He lets the world wonder what's happening behind his calm eyes. He's not acting. He's being. He doesn't disappear to punish her. He just disappears because he's busy with his purpose. And that makes her question everything. Is he over me? Does he miss me? Why am I thinking about him more than he thinks of me? And now, you're not a man. You're a puzzle she can't solve. Her mind panics when yours stays calm. Here's why. What if I told you, the quieter you are, the louder her emotions get? What if I told you, when you don't react, she does? Sounds strange, right? But this one shift, this calm, silent strength, can make her feel something no other man ever has. Let me paint a picture for you. She expects you to argue, to get jealous, to explode, to chase after her when she's distant. She wants to feel in control. So she pushes a little, tests a little, just to see what you'll do. And guess what? Most men fail that test. They get mad. They start begging. They panic like they're about to lose air. But not you. Not anymore. The Stoic man doesn't yell. He doesn't beg. He doesn't need to prove himself. When she goes quiet, he stays quieter. When she plays games, he stays grounded. When she pulls away, he doesn't chase. He focuses. And that calmness, it makes her mind spiral. Why isn't he reacting? Why does he seem so peaceful? Did I just lose a man who doesn't need me to feel whole? Here's the truth. When a man can hold his emotions like a rock in a storm, he becomes irresistibly rare. Because calmness means control, and control means power. Not power over her, but power over yourself. And that's what creates attraction on a level most people will never understand. She doesn't want a robot. She wants a man who feels but doesn't fall apart. Who cares but doesn't cling. Who listens but doesn't lose himself trying to please her. So next time she tries to stir chaos, let your silence speak louder than any shout. Let your stillness be the storm. Because when you don't flinch, she feels the impact. And in the next stage, we'll talk about the confidence that grows from that silence. Not fake, flashy confidence, but the kind that builds empires and makes women feel lucky to just stand next to it. Real confidence doesn't shout, it echoes. Pooh. What if I told you the loudest man in the room is usually the weakest one? What if confidence, real confidence, doesn't need to say a word because it shows, and when it shows, she feels it. You ever see a lion pacing? He doesn't roar all day. He doesn't bark like a little dog. He just walks, moves slow, eyes calm and still. Everyone around him respects his space. That's what your confidence should feel like. Not noisy, not needy, but strong, solid, unshakable. Here's the problem. Most guys think they have to do more to win a woman. Buy her stuff. Text her first every time. Show off, impress, entertain. But guess what? She gets bored. Fast. Because doing more isn't what attracts her. Being more is. She wants a man who doesn't need her approval. A man who walks into a room like he belongs there, even if no one says his name. A man who can look her in the eyes and not blink when she tries to test him with silence, attitude, or mind games. She wants to feel that unspoken strength, the kind that comes from building yourself, from learning new skills, from making decisions without fear, from knowing that even if she walks away, you'll still be fine. That's the confidence that makes her chase you. Not because you begged, but because you stood tall when most men would have folded. Real confidence. It isn't a car. It's not a watch. It's not having abs or posting selfies. It's when you know who you are. And no one, not even the woman you want most, can take that away from you. So when she pulls back or plays cold, you don't panic. You just keep walking forward. Because your life, it's already full, with purpose, with growth, with quiet power. The mind print trick. How to stay in her head for years. Want to know the secret to never being forgotten? Even after she's blocked you, deleted you, moved on, you can still live in her mind rent-free. Not with looks, not with words, but with what I call the mind print. Let's be real. Most guys fade from a woman's memory like fog in the morning. Why? Because they didn't leave a mark. They begged. They chased. They made her the center of everything. And when she left, she felt nothing. But you're going to do something different. You're going to leave an emotional fingerprint. A mind print that sticks. Here's how. When you live with purpose, you create mystery. When you're not always available, you become rare. When you speak with calm power, not panic, you feel solid. And women remember solid. They remember the man who didn't flinch, the man who didn't try to win her back. The man who said, I'm not here to be chosen, I choose. That energy, it scars her ego in a way she secretly likes. Women don't obsess over men who gave them everything. They obsess over men who made them wonder. Who made them question, why didn't he fight for me? Was I not enough for him? Is he thinking about me, or has he moved on? That tension, that's what haunts her. That's the mind print. And here's the truth. You don't create that kind of effect by chasing. You create it by walking away with grace. Not with hate, not with revenge, but with calm, powerful silence. You exit like a man who values himself, and suddenly you become the mystery she can't crack. And in her quiet moments, late at night, when the world goes still, she'll think about you. Not because you begged, but because you vanished. With dignity, with control, with stoic power. Versteht? Your mission is the magnet. She's drawn to it, not you. Here's a wild truth no one tells you. She doesn't really fall in love with you. She falls in love with the feeling of your mission, the energy, the forward motion, the pull of a man going somewhere fast and not looking back. Let's paint a picture. You're standing still, waiting, texting, hoping, planning your life around her replies. Guess what? She feels it. She senses you've made her your purpose. And instantly, her attraction drops. Fast. Why? Because women aren't built to chase men who chase them. They're wired to chase movement. And when a man is locked in on his mission, she can't help but feel drawn to him, even if she doesn't understand why. Now flip the story. Imagine this. You're building. You're focused. You're deep in your craft, your body, your vision. You're too busy to care about who likes your last post. Because you're building a life that's louder than her silence. Suddenly, she notices. She wonders why you're not asking for her attention. She checks your page. She circles back in your DMs, and her mind starts racing. What's he up to? Why does he seem so focused, so alive, without me? Boom. You just became a magnet. This is how high-value men attract without chasing. They don't beg for her time. They build something greater, and that pulls her in harder than any love poem ever could. Because here's what no dating coach will say. A woman respects the man who makes her second to something bigger. Not in a cruel way, but in a stoic, strong, unshakable way. It tells her, I won't collapse if you leave, because I was standing before you came. And that right there is power, is peace, is masculine gravity. The quiet aura that screams power without saying a word. Ever walked into a room and everyone turned to look at the one guy who didn't say anything? No loud words, no flexing, no showing off, just silence. But the kind of silence that grabs your chest and doesn't let go. That, my friend, is a URA, and she feels it too. You see, real power doesn't scream. It doesn't need to, because deep strength has a sound of its own. And that sound is calm. Let's break it down. When you're always reacting, getting mad, begging, chasing, proving, You lose your center. You become shaky. Your vibe gets noisy. And when your energy is loud on the outside, it's usually empty on the inside. And she can smell that weakness from miles away. Yes, she feels it. She might not say it out loud, but something in her heart tells her, this man is not steady. But when you move slow, when you speak less, when you breathe before you answer, suddenly your whole aura changes. You're no longer the guy trying to impress her. You're the man who knows who he is. And that energy, it sticks in her head like a song she can't forget. Here's a truth bomb. The moment you stop trying to be enough for her is the moment she starts to wonder if she's enough for you. Let that sink in. That's not ego. That's emotional stability. That's what Stoic men have mastered. They don't chase storms. They become the sky dash. Calm, steady, endless. And she'll want to know what it feels like to live inside that sky. To be seen by a man who doesn't need her, but still chooses her. So next time you feel the urge to prove yourself, pause. Feel your feet on the ground. Breathe deep. And remember, your stillness is louder than her drama. Your silence is sharper than her tests. Your calm is the very thing that makes her heart race. And if you think this was powerful, wait till you see what happens when a man disappears with dignity and leaves behind nothing but questions in her mind. The final stage is coming, and it's the final move. The exit strategy that makes her chase you through her own silence. The exit that echoes, while leaving, quietly creates loud regret. What if the strongest message is the one you never sent? No final text, no last call, no dramatic goodbye, just silence. And then you're gone. You see, most men mess it all up at the finish line. They beg, they cry, they write long messages, paragraphs that scream, please understand me. But Stoic men, they don't plead. They exit. And they don't leave chaos behind. They leave questions. Here's the secret. A woman doesn't miss the man who explains everything. She misses the one who stayed a mystery, the one who walked away. Not in anger, but in complete peace. It drives her crazy. Not because of what you said, but because of what you didn't say. She thinks, why didn't he fight for me? Was I not worth it? Did he stop loving me? Or did he never need me at all? That's silence. That's power. Not the kind that hurts her, but the kind that forces her to sit with her own emptiness. And in that space, she starts to replay everything. Every moment you were calm. Every time you didn't argue. Every time you stood firm in your truth. Suddenly, she sees you. Really sees you. And that's when the regret begins. You didn't leave to get her back. You left to return to yourself, to your mission, to your purpose, to the man who doesn't chase love. He embodies it, because for the Stoic man, Love is not about clinging. It's about choosing. Freely, boldly, without fear. And if she couldn't meet you there, you walk away with grace. That's the final move, brother. The move most men are too afraid to make. But once you do it, you never go back to the old version of yourself. You become the man whose absence speaks louder than his words. The man whose exit is a mirror, one that makes her see what she almost had, but lost. And that silence, it never fades. It lingers, echoes, and haunts. That's the legacy of the Stoic man. Not a storm, but a shadow, one she can't unsee.